We've got a big injury update that's going to change the Rams offense. And we got Week 11 winners and losers. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to the episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Just past 10,000 subscribers, all thanks to you. So if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know what are your thoughts on the winners and losers from last weekend. Let us know. My name is Doug McKay. My friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. SI, 24/7 Sports, Dodgers Nation. Now the Rams 4 Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He was currently in his 8th season covering the team. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. On today's episode, we've got winners and losers, horns up, horns down, some big injury updates, what's going on with the offense, McVay's play calling. That's coming up. But first, just a reminder that this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So, Travis, some quick injury updates from McVay yesterday. The first one, Puka Nacua, he said he had his shoulder banged up a little bit on the PI that he drew. He'll be day-to-day, so that's the one to know. Played 59 snaps. That's 88% of the time. So, was on the one with Devin Witherspoon there. And then with Cooper Kupp, it looks like he's day-to-day. He looks like he's going to be fine. He said that he'll be considered to be day-to-day with the sprained ankle that he suffered Sunday. And this is from Adam Schefter. He said, given Kupp's history with ankle injuries, the Rams will be careful with him as they determine whether he can play Sunday versus the Cardinals. Now, if he's not at 100%, when you look at this offense without Cooper Kupp right now, and the fact that maybe Cooper Kupp is not close to 100%, I say sit him until you can guarantee he's fully healthy.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot that they find themselves in because if the Rams are serious about making a playoff push, this is one of those times where you're going to have to maybe go out there with something less than your absolute best. If the Rams are still in the mode that I believe that they have been in from the beginning of the season, which is let's just see what happens. Let's be, deliberate. Let's be cautious. Let's just see what happens. Then maybe he doesn't go against Arizona. The Rams should be able to beat Arizona even without Cooper Kupp. I think it's really interesting with the position that Kupp finds himself in at this point in his career. He hasn't been good in quite some time. And there's been a game here or there. When he came off the IR, he looked like his old self, but that was a game or two. The other games, he really hasn't. He missed the first part of the season. He missed the last part of last season. Even the first part of the season before was good, but not vintage Kupp. And I think this is really something to keep your eye on moving in to the last part of the season here with 7 games to go. How much does he play? And when he plays, what does he look like? I understand an ankle injury is something that could drastically affect a wide receiver, but this is the NFL, right? If you're going to play, we're going to judge you on how you play, not how you play relative to your health. I'm fascinated to see how they do this. I don't know, Doug, if I'm quite on the same spot that Sean McVay is talking about where they expect him to play. I kind of expect him not to play. We'll see how it plays out over the last couple of parts of this week. But I think it's a huge story going into the Arizona game.
I agree 100%. I think at this point moving forward, I still think, yes, they do want to make the playoffs this year, and you're going to want to win football games. But he's someone that if you're going to make a run next year and he's still on the roster, yes, maybe Puka Nacua is having a bigger role. We see that he definitely emerges more when Kupp is out of the game. They still are figuring out how to utilize them both at the same time. But still, if you want to be serious about winning a Super Bowl next year, contending next year, Kupp has to be a part of that mix. And right now, he just doesn't look right. I mean, for me, the strange thing, Travis, was on that offsides call, the free play there in the first half. I mean, they just were not on the same page as far as a chemistry standpoint. And they have missed a lot of time, right? I mean, you've had different IR stints in the last couple of years. It hasn't been like 2021 for quite some time now. I mean, typically, right, Kupp is the peanut butter to Matthew Stafford's jelly, right? We always see those two in lockstep on the same page entirely. And that one, he just couldn't track the ball. He just couldn't make the catch on it. It made one catch for 11 yards. And it's just sometimes, too, I think when players get older, the injuries happen on plays where like, really? He got hurt that much on that type of play, right?
Yep.
And it was just a little tweak there. And hopefully it's nothing serious.
Well, I like what you said, because it wasn't just that they weren't on the same page right there. I agree with you. They weren't. That's happened a bunch in the limited time that they've been together. We've seen Matthew Stafford throw an interception on a short field and miss him by a lot. Now, maybe it was just a bad throw, or maybe he thought he was going to be somewhere that he wasn't. You know, you go back to a couple of the early parts when he came back, and you saw, you know, Matthew Stafford got a couple of grounding penalties because he thought he was going to be in an area where he just wasn't. And they haven't been able to be on that same page. And that happens occasionally, but it never really happened to them. Like when Matthew Stafford's first year here in 2021, all we heard about was how they saw football the same way. They were on the same page. They threw together in the offseason and all these things that they just were able to kind of read each other's minds. Well, they haven't been reading each other's minds. They've been looking at two totally different things all season long. Is it health? Is it just reps that you just need to go through over and over again? Or is it something else? Because Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford, which was one of the great combinations in football a couple of years ago, just does not seem to have that same familiarity. And it's not just the numbers. It just, like you said, D-Mac, they're not on the same page. Now, that's part one of this. Part two, you're talking about if he's part of the future going forward, if he's going to be a part of their plans next year to be a contender. I don't know if that's written in stone. I don't. It just, this is the things happen in the NFL so quickly. And if he's not the player he was, I don't know if you can continue to think about him as the player he was. Not that he's gone, not that he's not going to be useful, but do you have one of the best wide receivers in football in Cooper Kupp the way that we thought we did at the beginning of the season, the way that we knew we did last year, certainly the way that we knew we did in 2021? I'm not so sure anymore. And it's nobody's fault. It's just age, it's injury, it's time, it's defenses, it's all these things. But you got to look at the way he's played. If you just took the name off of the back of that jersey and said, how's that guy playing? The answer would be not very well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think that you're seeing the chemistry continue to build with Stafford and Puka Nacua, right? And I think that for Kupp, it's about really just having a good stretch where he's not dealing with injuries, not banged up. And I think that a better offensive line would help them as well, and a better run game will help them as well. But yeah, I mean, the chemistry just isn't where it's been. I mean, the chemistry in their podcast, Nine and Dime, is really good right now. But to me, it's that distracted boyfriend meme, right? Where Stafford is holding the hand of Kupp, and Kupp is looking at Stafford all jealous, and he looks back, and it's Puka Nacua right there, right? So that's what it feels like right now. But another quick one, it's pretty much the biggest update, Travis, yesterday, is that we knew this was coming, but now it's official. Kyren Williams is going to be returning for the Rams in their matchup with the Arizona Cardinals. I think this is massive. I can't overstate this enough, because one of the issues we've seen with this team is the points. I mean, they're averaging 14.25 points per game in their last 4 games. With Kyren Williams, they're averaging 23 points per game. Now, it's not just about Kyren Williams. Of course, Stafford's been banged up. You had Brett Rippon, the worst quarterback in the NFL history, essentially. But really, having him back in the fold is going to be huge for this team.
Let me introduce you to Zach Wilson, because while Brett Rippon was not good, and I'm not here to defend the ghost of Brett Rippon, that was a bad situation. Zach Wilson was the number 2 pick in the draft who played like that. Brett Rippon was an undrafted player. Anyway, I can't get Zach Wilson out of my head, because that's been pretty bad along the way. However, Kyren Williams, this is big. I'm really excited to see him back. He was a dynamic player. And keep in mind, his coming out party was against Arizona, where he put that big game together. I'm going from memory here, about 158 yards on the ground, got into the end zone. And not only is he a good runner, he's also a good pass catcher out of the backfield. He seems to have figured out the pass protection program pretty well for Matthew Stafford. So I know that he feels good having him back there as well. I think this is going to add, look, I get it. Darrell Henderson is doing the best he can, but he's a pretty limited player. Royce Freeman, tough, strong, physical running back. but he's just going to square his shoulders to the line of scrimmage and go fast and forward as quickly as he can. He's not going to make a lot of guys miss. I'm excited to see Kyren Williams come back. It adds an element to that offense that they have been missing over the last few weeks. And look, if he can look like the guy that we saw, 4 weeks ago and hit the ground running like he did, then that path to the playoffs goes from, a pipe dream to just a normal dream. It goes to just like, hey, yeah, I can kind of see the road there. Without him, I don't think they can get there. With him, I give them a small chance.
Yeah, and he's been by far their best option in the red zone. So far this season, 7 touchdowns in his first 6 games. He has 14 yards rushing from inside the 5-yard line. That's still tied for 3rd most in the NFL, despite having a miss the last 4 games. 6 TDs from inside the 10. That's the 4th in the NFL, despite missing the last 4 games. I can't overstate this enough. The red zone offense is going to vastly improve with the return of Kyren Williams. Great at picking up the blitz. He can fall forward, get those extra yardages, and just kind of run in between the tackles in their gap scheme, running style. So, yeah, great to have Kyren Williams back, and I think this is going to take this offense to another level when they need it the most. But coming up next here on Locked On Rams, we got winners and losers, horns up, horns down, and there's an NFL poll that came out that proves that the Rams have one of the baddest players on the planet. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
Let's talk about the Gametime app, D-Mac. You like to go to games. I like to go to games. I know that sometimes I like to go to a comedy show, a little concert, whatever it is, and you're always thinking, okay, when do I get the tickets? How do I get the tickets? It is, of course, the Gametime app. You should not have to worry about when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all your sporting events, music, comedy, theater events, all of it near you. Last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. And of course, you get a view from all the seats in the venue, and you've got your lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and you are all set. So you don't have to sweat it. You don't have to think about where those tickets are going to come from. You can take control with the Gametime app. So here's how you do it. You take the guesswork out of buying all your tickets with Gametime. Gametime app. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that Gametime account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And Locked On Rams is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, we're getting towards the end of the year, right? It's Thanksgiving week here. You know what's coming up on the back end of the year. You got the holidays and everything. And while it's supposed to be fun, sometimes it can be a lot of work, right? You're stressed about a million different things. Maybe you're going to see somebody that you're not all that excited to seeing about. It can be a lot at this time of year. And therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded, and to give you the tools to manage everything that you have going on in your life. So if you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. And if you don't click with that therapist quite the way that you're hoping, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. Do that today, and you get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thanks for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we want to send a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching us every day, listening to us every day, and also helping us get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. All thanks to you guys. So we appreciate that. You can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. Got a Black Friday sale on Friday. Membership is still 100% free, so you can absolutely join that Everyday Listeners Club. I definitely advise you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams.
I got to tell you, D-Mac, when I was doing the post-game show after the Rams beat the Seahawks, I had 3-4 different people come up to me, not just saying, hey, I listen to you on the radio here in LA, but the Locked On podcast, Locked On Rams. So the everydayers are out here. They are in the streets. They're coming up. They're saying what's up. And, of course, D-Mac and I appreciate it a great deal. Thank you very, very much.
That's awesome. So now, Travis, here in the second segment, we got horns up, horns down, winners and losers. First horns up, we're going to do this quick hitter style. Matthew Stafford. I mean, I thought it was so tough as nails. He got banged up. I mean, on that hit to when he got lit up by Reek Woolen, he responded so well. I don't think he gets enough credit for his toughness, not playing at 100%, but still coming through, making big hits. Before taking that hit, Travis, he was 10 for 20, 80 yards. After that hit, for some reason, everything clicked into place. He goes 7 for 11 for 110 yards, 2 scoring drives. Rams are down 16-7. They flipped that into a 17-16 lead. Another fourth quarter comeback for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I don't know if this is on the Pro Football Reference page or the back of a football card or anything like that, but if there is a metric for getting dropped badly and then responding in an unbelievable way, he's got to be leading the league in it, right? Because he takes shots, right? This isn't Patrick Mahomes who's out there making guys miss and all these things and running and pump faking. He's kind of where you expect him to be, and because of that, he's going to take some shots along the way. No, look, we can talk about pick sixes. We can talk about interceptions. We can talk about a lot of different things. Never once in the history of Matthew Stafford has anybody ever questioned his toughness. That dude is legit, absolutely legit when it comes to that. And like you said, it's like, getting to the free throw line and making a couple of buckets there. So all of a sudden your shot starts to go, or that foul ball off the mask of the catcher that kind of wakes him up for the first time in a while. Him getting hit lit something in him, and he took off after that. It was not a great Matthew Stafford day, but it was a winning Matthew Stafford day, that when they had to have it, he was able to do it. And I give him all the credit in the world. It was not a good game for him, but it was a winning game, and that's what it's about.
Absolutely. He's got that dogs out, that grit. He's got that fight in him, just in spades. Now, next, horns up, Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron Donald, he leads the team with 47 pressures, TFLs with 12. He had 5.5 sacks. That leads the team, and he's getting doubled and triple team this year. And you look at his performance against the Seahawks. He led the Rams defense with 3 QB hits, had 7 total pressures, had 1 stop. He also basically put the fear of God in Geno Smith with, oh my God, the sequel. So there was that. And also, Travis, there was a poll out there. Who's the best player in the game today? Patrick Mahomes was first, but of all the players, Aaron Donald was second. So, I mean, if Geno Smith voted for this, then he'd be first. But still, I mean, just look at that. It just shows you the respect that everyone has for AD.
He's still one of those guys, right? He's still a game wrecker. He's still an unbelievable presence. I know that when teams are getting ready to play the Rams and offensive coordinators get their guys together and offensive line coaches are in their meeting rooms, and, the red dot that they're putting on the screen, first one they go to is 99. The last one they go to is 99. And every guy that they go to in between is number 99, because that is the Rams defense. And the Rams defense was not supposed to be the strength of this team. It was not supposed to be the thing that led them to a potential playoff fight, shall we say, or at least a playoff push in the second half of the season. And that's exactly what's happening. They're doing it with their defense first. And the only name on that defense that anybody knows that's not a diehard Rams fan is Aaron Donald. Bobby Wagner is not out there. Jalen Ramsey is not out there. If you just, and I'm talking you and me and people that listen to this podcast, they know the Rams because we're Rams fans. But if you're just talking to football fans, nobody knows who these guys are. And it's because Aaron Donald is that damn good that everyone else comes along with him.
Yeah, they call them family and friends players, right? Only one that knows them are their family or their friends, right? Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Doesn't mean they're not talented, right? Doesn't mean they're not emerging. I think Ernest Jones had a big game too. But yeah, as far as brand names, it's Aaron Donald. And look, just ask Geno Smith. And they had the Seahawks injury report yesterday, and they said that Geno Smith is possibly might miss the game because he has PTAD, post-traumatic Aaron Donald. So yeah, he still is terrifying. And I just love to see it. I just love the fact that he's still elite. Now, next one I got, Derion Kendrick. Hey, give him credit when the credit is due, right? He allowed 3 receptions for 21 yards on 8 targets. He had 3 pass breakups, had that game-changing interception, the 6:45 left to play. Not the best throw there by Drew Lock, but got to give him a lot of credit, man. I mean, he's someone who basically got benched against the Packers. He's been dealing with some stuff off the field. For him to have a big game, it's not just what he did for the Rams. I think what he did for himself.
Yeah, no, like we mentioned yesterday, the everydayers will remember us mentioning, I was shocked when he was in the starting lineup. I was really surprised to see Derion Kendrick. It's like, all right, I guess we're doing this again. And I wasn't incredibly enthusiastic about it. Fact of the matter is, he made a game-saving play. That interception set up the game-winning drive, and the Rams ended up winning the game because he took the ball away, and you got to give him credit for that. Now, this is the NFL. A guy can make a play occasionally. It doesn't make him a great player. I think what it is where you go from here. Do you go back to the guy that we saw in Green Bay? Do you go back to the guy that makes you and I kind of, face palm and say, what's going on out there? Or do you start to stack good games on top of each other to the point where you start to say, you know what? He's turned a corner. He is a good player. And the bad plays become the anomalies as opposed to the good ones.
Yeah, 100%. And just an athletic play, a nice play, and really changed the entire game. Now, next one, this one's easy. Horns up, Puka Nacua, 70 yards, a touchdown, 5 catches, now 69 receptions for 897 yards and 3 TDs on the year. He's closed in on Eddie Kennison's Rams rookie record that he set in 1996. This team would be absolutely lost without Puka Nacua when you consider the injuries to Cooper Kupp. I mean, the 3rd and goal PI that led to the Hendo TD. I mean, he just does all the little things right. He's been an absolute revelation. I bought Puka Nacua stock early in the game. I bought Puka Nacua stock like it was Apple stock in the 80s. So I'm set for life, but I could not be happier and more thrilled with his success this season.
I think that what's the most interesting storyline of the second half, other than the push to try to make the playoffs, is what does Puka Nacua look like over the last 8 games of the season? We saw what it looked like over the first 9 games of the season. The first 9 games were kind of split into 2 different groups. The first group was, oh my gosh, is this one of the great wide receivers in the league? And then the next 4 games were, all right, he's a rookie, and there's a learning curve, and Cooper Kupp is back, and let's see how it looks together. Okay, so now what does it look like after you got to catch your breath during the bye week, after you've been banged up a little bit? We talked about the injury that you mentioned here at the top of the show, but can you continue to perform? Can you continue to get open? Can you continue to draw those penalties, to make those catches? I'd love to see him get in the end zone a little bit more often than he has. I know he had one last week against the Seahawks, but can you continue to elevate your game like that? And I think that's the next evolution for him, because the difference between being pretty good, which I think he is right now, and being very good, borderline great, is getting into the end zone, making game-winning plays, making difference-making plays. And right now, I think he's just below that. He's in the good category, not great. I'm excited to see if he can get there.
Absolutely, so much room to grow. And I think that if Cooper Kupp has some of his time, he's going to get more opportunities, and he's just going to continue to flourish in this offense. Now, This next one is for the defense as a whole. How about this, Travis? They've allowed 3 points to the Seahawks in the second half all season long. If you look at their EPA, it was the 3rd best per play in the second half versus Seahawks in the NFL for last week. The first half was the worst. They really turned things around. Yes, Drew Lock had something to do with that. There's no doubt about that. But give this defense tons of credit. I mean, you saw the play where Kobe Turner forces the intentional grounding. You see Aaron Donald pushing Charbonnet out of bounds. I mean, so many game-changing plays that weren't the big flashy sacks or anything like that. This just kept this defense in it and allowed this offense to really find a way to hold some time so that they can put up some points and take the lead.
I think what's important to note here is that while the Rams have beaten the Seahawks twice, and like you said, they've thrown a 3-point combo in the second half in the 2 games that they've played, the Seahawks are not a bad team. The Seahawks are a good team. The Seahawks, I think, are very likely to make the playoffs. The Seahawks have weapons. The Seahawks move the ball. They can score points. And that the Rams have been able to do that against them, I think, is a testament to how good that Rams defense has been, at least in those 2 weeks, especially in the second half in both of those 2 games. I don't know if they win that game if Geno Smith stays in the whole time. I think probably not, but he did. He did come out, and Drew Lock did come in, and the Rams did take advantage of it. So I give them all the credit in the world, and I really do think that moving forward, if they're going to win games, if they're going to beat New Orleans and the Commanders and the Cardinals and the Giants, and you have to win all 4 of those, it's going to be led by the defense. And all the credit in the world, because I never thought that's something we'd be saying at this point in the season.
I agree. Give credit to Raheem Morris and these young guys really just continuing to merge in. Coming up next here in our final segment, though, we got horns down. We got the losers, Rams that didn't have a good week against the Seahawks. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, score this NFL season with FanDuel, America's number one, not number 2 or 4 or 10, number one sportsbook, America's number one sportsbook. And right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is absolutely no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, and there are all sorts of betting options available to you, including, a little traditional point spread game. You can do some player props if you want. You like the over-under? FanDuel's got you covered there. And of course, so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. Again, that is FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. And go see if you like the Rams, right? Rams right now, I'm looking at it. They're 2.5 on FanDuel. They're 2.5-point favorites on the road on FanDuel against the Cardinals. Get in on it while you can. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for being Locked On Rams, your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, Travis, here in our final segment, we got some horns down, starting with Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee had 1 catch, 17 yards, had a pass blocking grade of 40.1. That was the lowest on the team. It's called for that pass interference there on that completion. He also allowed 2 pressures there in the pass protection, just 7 reps. He just did not look good. He had that 1 catch on the rollout there late in the game that definitely helped on that 2nd and 6. But Tyler Higbee continues to look like a shell of himself.
I can't quite. I have to chalk it up to he's hurt. But like I said earlier, when talking about Cooper Kupp, at some point you're judged exclusively by how you play, not by how you play relative to how healthy you are. If he's going to be out there and he's going to play, he's got to give them more. We've said this before. People that have listened to this podcast this season, people that have listened to this podcast, the everydayers in previous seasons, they know, right, that there's always been that big Higbee game where, wow, Tyler Higbee had 8 catches. He got in the end zone once. Maybe he got in the end zone twice. We've even seen a 3-touchdown Tyler Higbee game in his past. And the fact of the matter is, we're not getting 3 catch Tyler Higbee days. We're not getting 3 target Tyler Higbee days. And while he's been incredibly disappointing, I'll go a step further, D-Mac. What are the other tight ends doing in practice that they can't get this guy off the field? That this is their best option, I think, speaks incredibly poorly of all the other options they have at tight end, because the Rams are one of 3 teams in the entire league that do not have a tight end touchdown the entire season long. Wow. That is not a list that you want to be on heading into week 12 of the NFL season. And Higbee really is the only one that even plays. So while he's had a terrible season, I don't think there's any 2 ways to slice that. What does it say about the other guys that they can't move this guy out of there and at least get on the field?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of seniority, the extension. He's probably saying, I'm fine, right? And you see Matthew Stafford, he's playing well, even when he's injured, right, during certain stretches. Right. Higbee hasn't been the case. I do think if this continues, you do have to give Hunter Long and Bryson Hopkins and Davis Allen, some of these guys, opportunities, because, yeah, like you said, you're not getting any production. And then with Cooper Kupp banged up, Tutu Atwell hasn't been his best lately. You need to find someone that can be a viable threat over the middle. Now, next one, we got Ahkello Witherspoon for horns down. Now, Ahkello Witherspoon has been trending in the wrong direction last couple of weeks. He gave up 3 receptions for 59 yards. There's 2 tackles, had a tackling grade of 21.8. He just hasn't been looking like the Ahkello Witherspoon that we saw earlier in the year.
Well, who was it? Was when we did the crossover with the Steelers, when they told us that, hey, check back in with me in the second half of the season with Ahkello Witherspoon and let me know what you think about it, because this has kind of been his path in the NFL. First half of the season, pretty good. Second half of the season, not nearly as good. And that seems to be what's happening with Witherspoon with the Rams as well. Look, he may not have been great, and I'm not trying to give anybody an excuse right here, but the fact of the matter is it was part of a defense that did throw a shutout in the second half. So I'm willing to give him a little bit of grace right there, but that improvement definitely needs to come, or at least just a stabilizing effect of let's just get back to a basic level of competency.
Yeah, that was our friend Chris Carter, the host of Locked On Steelers. I don't know if his saying is Chris Carter, all he does is host podcasts or something like that, but yeah, that's what he said about Ahkello Witherspoon. So it's very interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll give him that one. Next, we got Darrell Henderson. Not too worried about this one. 6 carries for 1 yard. Had no missed tackles forced. Did score that touchdown late, but you're going to see Kyren Williams back. I think Henderson did a admirable job filling in. But yeah, he just doesn't have it at the NFL level.
Exactly. I don't have a lot to add to that, D-Mac. I think you're spot on. I think that he's done everything that he can to try to participate's the wrong. Try to help the team. He's done what he's been asked to do. I just think the fact of the matter is he's just not an impactful NFL player. I think the league has spoken on that. I think there's a reason he was available. I think seeing him play in the second stint with the Rams, he's got a lot of heart and he plays really hard, but the results just really aren't there.
Exactly. Now, Coleman Shelton did have a great game. A couple of pressures, didn't do great in the run blocking. But last one today, this is a player that we talked a lot about in the offseason. Will he finally emerge? Not a great day for Tutu Atwell. He did force those 2 PIs, made that 17-yard catch, also had that drop there in the fourth quarter, missed that one in the end zone. Tutu Atwell is someone that I think really needs those vertical opportunities, and a lot of that has to do with the offensive line. So really, I don't think he's been optimized at his best level, but he has been making the most of his opportunities of late.
Yeah, look, I think that in your third year in the league, whether that is the NBA, Major League Baseball, or certainly the NFL, you kind of are what you are, right? I don't think that there's a ton of growth or even necessarily just regression that's going to happen after 3 years. This is Tutu Atwell's third year in the league. And I get it. He hasn't played a whole heck of a lot in the first 2, but this is what he is. He's really fast. He can stretch the field. He's going to get behind the defense occasionally. But beyond that, there really isn't a ton of impact on the game. I think in a perfect world, what you're hoping Atwell would have become was a player like Deshaun Jackson, right? A guy that could just absolutely fly and get behind people, but also impacted the game in a lot of different ways, just other than running down and running go routes. That's all that Tutu really has in his bag. I'd love to be wrong. I just don't think that I am.
Yeah, for me, what impressed me early on this season was the strength of those hands, right? Just seeing the ball, making those catches, and he just had a couple of laps there. But, I mean, we'll see, though. If Kupp is out, maybe his opportunities increase.
He's going to have to
do it. To impress, right? So,
he's got to do it.
I want him to have success, no doubt about it. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And as always, you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, on X at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.